It was the 6th of July, 1944, a sunny evening. B-17G with tail number 42, 31, 45, piloted by 23-year-old Second Lieutenant Richard L. McGott, takes off from RAF Manston in Kent, England. Despite being only 23, this was his 23rd mission and was an experienced B-17 pilot. He was to escort a formation of B-17 bombers to take out a German V-weapons complex near Cobron, France. Often, the Allied B-17 bombers suffered catastrophic losses over Germany from head-on attacks by the Luftwaffe. The Luftwaffe pilots knew that the B-17s weren't very well armed against frontal attacks, and so this was a common angle of attack and was proven to be successful. However, Second Lieutenant Richard's B-17 was one of a kind. His B-17 had been fitted with an experimental chin turret consisting of 650 caliber machine guns mounted in an extremely tight grouping, which was controlled by the pilot. Alongside the chin turret were also two single 50 cals on either side of the nose, making his B-17's frontal firepower the equivalent to that of a P-47 Thunderbolt, 8 M2 Brownings. In total, Richard's B-17 had 17 50 caliber machine guns. As they pass over Calais, France, heavy flak opens up on the B-17s. Richard's B-17 was at the front of the formation. Suddenly, he hears a loud thud and his bomber shudders. Looking out through the left window, he notices the port side inboard engine gushing out thick black smoke. The wings had holes in them and the fuel began to pour out. Immediately, he shuts off the engine to prevent a fire and increases power to the outboard engine to balance out the bomber. By now, the Luftwaffe had caught word that the Allies were on their way to bomb their V1 complex and immediately scrambled 3 squadrons of Focke-Wulf 190s consisting of 26 fighters. Typically, the B-17 bombers fell easy prey to the 190s head-on attacks. However, today was different. At the helm of the formation was a B-17 that they had never seen or encountered before. Richard sees 3 Focke-Wulf 190s approaching from the west side. He breaks the formation and points his nose straight at them. The German sees lone B-17 smoking from one engine and heading for an attack from the front, hoping to finish off the bomber. This is when the newly mounted 850 caliber machine guns opened fire. With such a tight grouping from the chin turret, the first Focke-Wulf 190 is destroyed in an instant. Having noticed what had just happened, the second German fighter attempts to pull away from the B-17's nose, but it was too late. Richard sets the second Focke-Wulf 190 on fire as the pilot bails out. The third Focke-Wulf 190 manages to escape by climbing up where the frontal guns could not reach. The flak had now gotten much thicker, and Richard's B-17 is hit yet again, this time on the outboard engine on the port side wing. With only 2 engines on one side of the wing still running, his B-17 begins to lose balance, but remains airborne. A second squadron of 6 Focke-Wulf 190s begin their attack from the north side. Second Lieutenant Richard battles with the controls and incredibly turns the B-17 to face the oncoming fighters head on. 4 of the 6 Focke-Wulf 190s were in a tight attack formation this time. The 850 cals opened fire, destroying 2 fighters with one short burst. However, the Focke-Wulf 190s tear off his portside stabilizer and landing gear. Another devastating flak strike takes out the third engine, as Richard's B-17 completely falls out of the formation and enters a spiral. Being an experienced pilot, he shuts off all engines before the bomber gains too much speed, and remarkably manages to gain control of the B-17, bringing the bomber to level flight. His crew members prepare to bail out. However, Second Lieutenant Richard insists that all members of his crew stay on board till he can no longer fly the aircraft to prevent them from becoming a POW in France. Richard attempts to fly his crippled B-17 back home from France on a single running engine and extreme battle damage. Miraculously, he manages to navigate the English Channel and crash lands his bomber at the same airbase he took off from in Kent, England. He would bring all 9 members of his crew safely back home. Richards would go on to survive World War II and return home to Indiana, USA, where he would have 2 sons and a daughter, shortly before being called back into active duty to fight in the Korean War, flying F-86 Sabres. He would remain in active duty until the end of the Korean War, where he would finally retire. For his service, he would be awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Air Medal with 3 oak leaf clusters, and the European African Middle Eastern Service Medal. Following his retirement, Richard would purchase a golf club, as he very much enjoyed playing golf, and he would pass away on the 22nd of May, 2011, where he was born, in Indiana, USA.